Hello and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint, proud to present to you a latest series of strategic discussions called the General's Talk, featuring Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar and Lieutenant General Satish Dua. Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar, PVSM, AVSM, BSM, a retired Director General of the Artillery. He has deep knowledge and understanding as well as experience in successful defense planning and acquisition. Now a professor in the Aerospace Department of the IIT Chennai. He is also an author of a strategic blog called thegunnershot.com. Lieutenant General Satish Dua, PVSM, UYSM, SM, BSM, served as the Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff to the Chairman of the Chiefs of Staff Committee. He was also the commander of the 15th Corps looking after the LOC against Pakistan. Today, he is a strategic thinker as well as an author of a book called The India's Brave Hearts. Subscribe to Dev Talks and hear what the generals have to say. Hello and welcome to Dev Talks on this edition of the General's Talk. This is India's best upcoming strategic platform where today we will discuss the future of India-China relations. The changing situation between both the countries as seen in the past year has resulted in a massive strain on the relations. The issue has been brought to bear by the military push of the Chinese army in Doklam as well as Ladakh in the last year, coupled of course with the COVID-19 which originated from China as well. There are various factors affecting this relationship going forward. And before we discuss that, one must note that the world seems to be involved in this arena. These two are the most populous nations and going to be two big economies of the future. They also are nuclear armed and consider themselves to be the main threat to one's growth and to the other's security. These two also have very large contradictions within itself, whereas India's can be seen and China's is a case study by itself. In this talk, I would like to discuss with both the generals on their thought on what these geopolitical factors are, which need to be considered when one is wanting to analyze the way forward between India and China. Thank you, sir, for joining me today in this conversation. And we hope to listen to what you have to say about these factors that are going to influence both the countries and their relationships in the future.
Thanks a lot, Adi. Thanks for calling us over. At the outset, I'd like to convey my best wishes to everyone and hope everyone keeps safe. And those of us who are not so well off in hospital and what have you, I wish them the best of recovery.
I think the first topic to start with would be the politics of both the nations. Jan Shankar, I'd like to start with you, sir. What would you like to highlight as the main political factors within China that could affect this relationship between both the countries?
Yeah, we'll look at it from a 5-year perspective. What is the issue which is going to emerge in the next 5 years? At the outset, it appears that Xi Jinping will continue. I mean, there's no challenger to him in the horizon, and it's quite stable for him. A few issues about Xi Jinping. He's got his own dream about China, and he has veered from the old path of Deng Xiaoping, and he wants to make a name for himself in the history of China. And China under Xi Jinping has been quite assertive and aggressive, right? And if I say so, we might see a more militaristic China ahead, right? And he's very ideological in his outlook and with his own perception of what is China and what is China's role in the world and his China dream. Right, if he continues, we're going to see a China which is going to be bristling like a porcupine, right? Trying to protect itself as also, offend others. So that's going to be the political scene. But then there is also some school of thought which is emerging saying, look, will this harm China in terms of economics, in terms of goodwill and all that? And will it turn everyone away from China? So it's going to be an interesting next 5 years, right? Of course, there are a lot of other issues in China that we can discuss separately. So this leadership and their political thinking will have a bearing on how the Sino-Indian equation will turn out in the next 25 years. We also have to understand how does their leadership consider India in terms of a rival or as a competitor or a contester? I mean, that's a matter of semantics. How do they look at India as part of their overall dream? That's the thing, and this is what I have could gather. Your views, Satish? Any issue which you have to?
Though you did qualify that you're looking at a 5 years perspective, so you've taken care of that. But I still want to add that, like you said, that he's changed the goalposts. And you're talking of Xi Jinping. If you recall that earlier in all Chinese writings and articles that we read, we used to hear about them wanting wanting to replace US as the sole superpower in 2050 or 49 was the time being counted. But recently, they've themselves revised it to 2030. So that shows that China is in a hurry. When someone actually revises timelines in at such a high level, surely they will tend to be brash, and I think we are seeing some signs of it.
Yeah, there will be political implications of this. I agree with you completely.
Right, sir. That's a good point. General Dua, I'd like to ask you to consider the political situation within India and talk about how the current factors and as well as some future factors that you see developing within India that could affect India and China relationship.
Uh, so today, India, like the rest of the world, is dealing with the COVID challenge. The COVID challenge, especially the second wave, we see that we are grappling with that in the cities and in the countryside. It is exacerbated by a huge population, poor healthcare infrastructure, and it is also uh, accentuated by the fact that there has been faulty planning in several aspects. Now, without expanding the discussion, I just want to close it here that we are dealing with those challenges with, like the rest of the world, perhaps a little more so because of the factors that I mentioned. This has led to our own economic issues, the economic slowdown, and our ways of trying to deal with opening of the industry and opening of the economy, trying to help businesses move along. On the other hand, we also see that there is a friction that is being provided by agitations, protests, and political wrangling. Politics is stepping into it. Why I specifically talk about it is that it is a national level calamity that we are dealing with. And earlier, we used to see that whenever there are such calamities, uh, we would come together as one. But today, whether it was Ladakh last year or whether it is this COVID crisis, I see a lot of politics. I think the last time the country came together across all lines was perhaps the Kargil conflict. In in as much as our engagement with other countries, uh, whether it is to do with military aspects or otherwise, is something that I would like to discuss later. But I just leave with one thought that as far as our political diplomatic linkages are concerned, even in our neighboring countries, over the last few years, we seem to have uh, we seem to have marginalized our influence, if I can use that phrase. We need to really step up, perhaps because of our indifference, perhaps because of our priorities being elsewhere. We need to step up our engagement with the immediate neighborhood because we are seeing how China is exploiting that little space that we are vacating for.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. If I sum it up, it's the internal politics and the internal unity which is going to dictate your external play. And the strength of your internal politics will tell you what the equations with China will be. I will just take it for the present. We are politically weak today. I mean, because of the virus and all that's known. We've created a vacuum in our neighborhood, and China has occupied it. That vacuum is, So 5 years down the line, the challenge for India, I think, will be, can we get our political act together? How well we can we, like what General Satish Dua said is very relevant. Last time politically we were united was in Kargil. When did Kargil take place? 2 decades back. For the past 2 decades, our politics, internal politics, has not been on the same page. So a healthy mind and a healthy body type, that's a thing. Yeah.
That's interesting. But one thing to note between both the countries is that the Indian internal political difference are wide in the open, whereas China's is requires experts to actually study it out. It is.
Well, that's the nature of the being. That's their dispensation. A democracy.
Yeah.
Democracies are a little too transparent than even required.
We are highly transparent. They're highly opaque. That's about all. It's. But let's not make the mistake of thinking all is hunky dory with China.
No, absolutely.
Okay. Every country goes through its bad patches and good patches. So we are going through a bad patch. You never know. Tomorrow will be a good patch. Optimism.
That is interesting, and I hope we do go through a better patch. And before COVID was actually pretty good. We need to come back to that. General Shankar, I'd like you to spend a little time more explaining to us the factors around India, because one can realize that the Chinese focus has been around here. How do you think the neighborhood of India kind of interferes with the relationship between China? On a broader perspective, sir.
See, let's look at it. The neighborhood is important. China is making a lot of inroads into the neighborhood. Okay. Whether you look at Bangladesh or Myanmar or, Sri Lanka, they are there. Nepal, the way things are going, with their political instability, they're already trying to dictate terms there. And then they're trying to get an entry into Afghanistan also. So the China factor will be there. But I think a very important marker in Sino-Indian equation, say, down the line, will be the politics of the virus itself. The politics of the virus, not for India as much as for China. The politics of how this blame game is going on, Wuhan lab leak, and how China will respond to it and all that. I think that is one thing. The second thing, I think, which is an important marker of Sino-Indian equations, will be the geopolitical outlook of China itself, not necessarily this neighborhood. Overall, where does India come in the pecking order of Chinese outlook? General Dua said, China wanted to replace USA as the sole superpower. You yourself said that, they treat us as someone, their competitor. So in that whole story, where do we fit in their outlook in the next 5 years? Right? Now, that is important, how they deal with us, and how this thing will depend on how they look at us. That's, internal politics and all fine, but this is one point. Then, of course, the second thing is China's own stated aims. Of course, they want to be a superpower is given, but their first priority is supposed to be Taiwan. Their underlying and overriding priority is internal stability. They don't want to let go. So where do they land up? What is there going to be their equation with USA? In all this, how does their economics progress? Will they continue to progress in this? Already there are signs of fraying of their economy. Notwithstanding, one shouldn't look. We are looking at a 5 to 10 year horizon, no, minimum 5 years, 2025, 26, and beyond. So if you're looking at that, you'll get over this. Don't look at it at this point of time. When in a post-pandemic era, or when you're hitting that, can your economy still sustain itself the way it is sustaining yourself now? Because that has a major bearing on everything else. And what about the demographics of China? Will China become old before it gets rich, or will it get rich and become old? But one thing is for sure, whether it gets rich or not, it's going to get old. Increased social costs, lesser working, hands. That means that you're going to spend more on non-productive issues, and for the productive people, they're going to be costly, right? And whether you like it or not, China is not a greatly developed and rich nation like USA with a high per capita income, or for that matter Austria or all these Western countries. Everything is low there. They don't have a social security net, which is great. So that's going to limit their economy. If the economy gets limited, there will be a economic impact on their geopolitics. Plus the fact that if this viral politics goes in a wrong direction, it will detract further from the economy. How far they can get over it is a question. So I think there are a lot of issues. And then all this will impact their military. Plus the fact that they have spread their wings into the BRI. Will BRI become a bridge too far? Right? Will all their expansion get shortened before they take off only? Okay. And then there's this classic contradiction of China. Some technologies are fantastic. In some technologies they're backward. They're not foot secure. So as much as there is a bristle and a showcase about China being great, there are contradictions. There are question marks. I'm not suggesting that China will collapse tomorrow. No. It will continue to be a big economy. You can't put a nation of 1.3 billion down. It's not going to go down the chute. Their Communist Party is not going to vanish. Okay. But will it be the China of Xi Jinping's dreams? That's a question. Your views, Satish.
Let me take one thread. You started off by talking about how does China see India. Now, I want to point out one thing, that one aspect, that in the last, let's say, a couple of years, India is the only country that has stood up to China, and I will point out 3 or 4 things. Our open opposition to the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. We did not attend the summit that was in China, that was held in China. We opposed the CPEC. We are the only country in 3 or 4 phases. We have actually banned the Chinese apps. We have stopped China from participating in tenders regarding infrastructure and now 5G. Not even the US of A has done that. They've spoken about it, but none of them have done all this. And so, as it is, China does, I am not saying that China sees India as a major threat. They know that their major competition is with the USA. But it cannot wish away India. India is its neighbor with contiguous and contentious borders. So it does see India as a competitor in its neighborhood in times to come, and hence it has actually, China is now got on to, if I use the word, allow me to just use the word, adventurism in Eastern Ladakh last year. It perhaps did not count on our resolve, our capacity to be able to mobilize, and I'm trying not to expand it into the military terms as of right now. So what we did, we managed to hold off whatever adventurism China had come down to do, had come down for in Ladakh. But having said that, now that we are also forming, or shall we say, getting enthusiastic about a very old arrangement of Quad, we are giving it different aspects like joint military exercises, and other facets are being added to Quad. It is being strengthened. China does not like that. But having said all this, I also want to say that while we are doing this in Ladakh, while we continue to have disagreements about the other aspects like BRI that I mentioned, or Quad, yet we continue to engage on diplomatic, political, military, even trade, unlike Pakistan. There is no comparison. We don't have to compare India-Pakistan to India-China. But I just want to say that, for example, in India-Pakistan, there is a drawdown of all these aspects, whether it is diplomatic, whether diplomacy, trade, military relations are also, at the present moment, a ceasefire is holding, which is a good thing. But otherwise, we have more active dynamics there. So all I'm trying to say that China cannot wish away India. India is not a competitor like USA. However, India is a big factor for the reasons that I mentioned, and it will always continue to engage with India at all these levels. Is my take on it.
I think the big takeaway from what you both mentioned, one, I think I'll take what General Shankar said is the viral politics. That is something that is going to play a big role with regards to influence within the region and around the world. And of course, General Dua, as you said, that India probably now has started featuring up as more of a from a competitor or a stumbling block to a threat level sort of a thing with the actions that were taken last time.
Allow me an interruption. I would like to use a term that I think General Shankar and I are aware we were on a different chat groups, adversary.
Adversary.
Let's not call enemy right now, but I mean adversary. It's a, it's a
Yeah. See, what both of you are saying is right. You see, India is the only country which has taken on China militarily head on.
yes.
You look at back at 62. I mean, you leave 62 out, 67, Doklam, Eastern Ladakh, and we just to add to one more thing, we have not joined RCEP also. RCEP also we have stayed away. So,
Except once in Vietnam. Sorry for interrupting. I just add on a little heft to your statement. You're right. Except the 1979 operation that they had with Vietnam, that is China-Vietnam war. Border war. Apart from that, India is the only country that has actually crossed swords with.
Swords with them. So they whatever they do, they will not wish us away. We cannot be wished away. We will loom large. Yeah.
It's an upgrade or a downgrade from a competitor to an adversary is a totally different
that will
discussion,
change. That will keep changing with time.
The adversary factor comes out to be pretty close because now I think they're going to start studying us a little more. So, General Dua, you also mentioned the military. I'd like you to expand a little more with regards to Indian military and the changes and the modernization that is taking place within the military, sir.
Look, our military, led by the army, or should I not say, all three services put together, have been, if I may be allowed a little colloquial way of putting it, have been crying hoarse over our modernization. While we are okay to, for the day-to-day LOC as it is called in the civil dynamics with Pakistan. However, for China, we need to modernize our military capabilities. That had been given a go by, let's face it. And last year, this inadequacy in several aspects did come to fore when we were embroiled in Ladakh. So what happens then? Then there were some knee-jerk reactions, as is wont to happen. Delegation of powers, leasing of equipment, outright purchases were made. And we also have to understand, as military men, we know when you say outright purchases, it does take a long time. Maybe that year is over by the time you really actualize a particular import. So now we are getting into that. However, having said that, let me also say that within our existing resources, the military showed a capacity and a capability to be able to mobilize despite that tenuous 1.5 road access that we had. We managed to mobilize in time to hold on. We managed to then do the winter stocking and all the logistic wherewithal that it takes to sustain a large force. We've actually, maybe the synergy that the office of the CDS has created over the last 1 year or 1.5 years now, but last year it was a fledgling endeavor, but then it does show results in how Air Force and Army were able to coordinate in Ladakh. So some steps are being taken, some have been hurried up, but this is something that we cannot take our eye off. This is a subject that does need constant attention, and in the time to come, this coming season and beyond, I think we need to pay more attention on the new and better enablers that military, especially Air Force and Navy require. I beg your pardon, Air Force and Army require in Ladakh. But we must understand that this can expand anytime to the maritime domain. And there are several things without expanding the discussion to maritime domain. We have to understand that the Navy also requires a certain upgrades. Some of them have already taken place. So, our military modernization is something that we should never take our focus away from, is what I would like to say.
General Shankar, with regards to our very friendly neighbor on the western front, there's a lot happening within Pakistan itself, and it's coming out to be a pretty much an important cog between the India-China relations. There's a lot of news floating around the place of various different conspiracy theories, or the truth I'm not very sure, because it's very difficult to analyze that particular thing. But I would like you to broadly frame out what are the issues with that Pakistan can actually bring about between India and China, sir.
Right. Before I touch upon Pakistan, I'd like to add on to what General Dua said.
So,
One, and then I'll talk about Pakistan also. See, we take your mind back to a year and a half back. We had a LOC, which is not soft, but it was not hard either. Today, you've gone on to a semi-hard LAC, and with one portion is almost on a LOC basis. Dapsang, and you're face to face. The challenge is, will it turn into a LOC at places? Then with its own dynamics, you might have a different kind of LOC, but it's constant presence. And in any case, China has beefed up its position there into some kind of a permanent deployment, and so have you with your rebalancing and all that. So there are going to be costs on this. The nation has to bear this cost, and the nation can bear this cost only if our economics are good. I mean, like you said, you just can't take your eyes away from the military angle. So, but the economics of this has to support. And today, are we in a state of being able to support this? Is the question. Maybe with the intrinsic capability which has been built over 7 decades, we have the capability to hold China today. Maybe next year. But at some point of time, the strain will tell on us. And that growth of our own economics or military economics under politics, those three things put together, and your diplomacy will test it. Right. Now, the joker in the pack here is obviously Pakistan. Okay. Everyone knows that Pakistan and China will act collusively. So, collusion is a given as far as Pakistan is concerned. How to clear the pitch for India is a given. But will Pakistan play a big role? Not the way it used to play earlier, because Pakistan is also going to go into a tailspin with Afghanistan. I mean, Afghanistan is not a cakewalk for anyone hereafter. And if you see the kind of scenarios which are coming out in the news, it's going to be going to back somewhere in the variant of those 80s days. Okay. And you might even see China getting stuck there. Right? Because China has a border with Afghanistan. There are issues. Xinjiang is still a Muslim majority province. So, though the border there is small, they have, and China has to keep that. And now, so far, China got a free ride in Afghanistan because of US presence there. So, and now, with this Pakistan angle, I would say will play up more through Afghanistan. Okay, and of course, Pakistan's economy, all that. But will it affect the larger Indo-China or the Sino-Indian equation? Very doubtful. They will try to detract us from the overall big thing, but there are limits to what Pakistan can do. And that limits, I will not look at it, what will happen in the future. Just look at what happened in the past. The history tells you that China has never interfered when you had a problem with Pakistan, and Pakistan has never interfered when you had a with China. Why? There are reasons, very very good reasons. I remember reading about last year at this time, and the our thing with Galwan and all this. Galwan, of course, was not at a little time away. When the issues were on the this thing, I remember one line saying there are no free lunches for Pakistan and going to China's support fully. Okay. So that's a caution, that's a sentiment, right? We can't wish it away. So Pakistan will be there, but I don't think it's anything more than that. But I think the bigger player is USA, which I think we need to consider.
Yeah, that is. I believe we've left that for the last, and that's going to be a big topic
Yeah.
that we will have to talk about. Jaldua, before I move to the US, would you like to add anything about Pakistan with your large experience handling Pakistan, sir?
No, I obviously agree with whatever Jalan Shankar has said, but I think Pakistan will also remain a very important cog from the point of view of the CPEC and the at a tactical level, the CPEC to Gilgit-Baltistan, and the fact that they also allow them the use of air bases. Allow China the use of allow them the use of air bases in Gilgit-Baltistan. That affects the military at the strategy at the operational level.
Right. So now coming back to the biggest cat in the bag, I think that is going to be the USA. Without no geopolitical discussion is complete without discussing the topic. And instead of me asking you questions, I'd like you to actually, do a little bit of brainstorming between yourselves, and let's see where we come up with regards to how the US, with its own issues and own 50,000 other things, can influence the relations between India and China. General Dua, would you like to start, sir?
Well, okay. Now, I think the US has bounced back after President Biden has come in, and it has reversed some of the earlier policies. But it is still following, to my mind, the America First ruthlessly. Whether it was to do with the medicines and the ingredients, whether it is to do with the Afghanistan pullout. I mean, it's laid down a timeline. While we know that things in Afghanistan are not really fit enough, but they have decided ruthlessly to follow what is in America's interest. They are, of course, concerned by what China is attempting, that we've been discussing so far. If China is trying to edge out USA has to make sure that it stays relevant. I beg your pardon. It stays in the driving seat. For instance, this latest thing of the e-yuan. Now, China is now even trying to sort of ruffle and threaten the dollar. I mean, it is their way of trying to do something. How it pans out is something we will see later. So the US, amongst other things, is also pushing for Quad to acquire a substantive content. As I said earlier, we have started with maritime cooperation, military exercises, and a summit meeting. This is what rankles China. So we are seeing a resurgent US giving it a push and trying to draw on all possible linkages against China. Dhanil Shankar?
Yeah, just to add on to what he said, I was reading an article by Kurt Campbell, who's the South Asia coordinator for US in this area. He's been recently appointed. Now, his view is that China and US are no more in a great engagement mode. They are in a clear competition mode. And a competition mode is, it is not you and me, it is you or me. I mean, that's the thing. So in that kind of a scenario, USA will loom large in any Sino-Indian equation. Okay, and you already seen how USA has reacted to our problems now. They come with whatever you wanted after the initial hesitation, probably for whatever reason. They've come hard at you to say, okay, just take whatever you want, we'll help you out of it. They are also interested in you getting out of the equation. Okay, that is going to have an effect on China. I mean, it is there. Then the Quad will be there. Now, one more thing which is very clear: revival of Indian economy will be predicated not on equations with China but on equations with USA. See, everything ultimately comes back to, like what Clinton said: it's the economy is stupid. you know, so your economy is now getting more linked with Australia, Japan, EU, and France, and that side, and Middle East, and it's not with China. So, and the driver for all this is USA. So USA will loom large in this equation, given, right? Yeah, of course. The issue for India will be how to balance Russia out, but that's a topic for a different discussion. I will not go into it. Okay, and a critical thing, which what General Satish Dua said is, USA is on the mend and it is getting back into action. We should never forget that unlike any other country, USA has a capability of bouncing back, whether it's the World Trade Center or the 1930s depression or the Second World War where it lost something, Pearl Harbor, or for that matter, the 2008 financial crisis. It knows how to handle its own crisis and get back. Okay. Will China be able to handle such a crisis if it comes? Because China has not been tested. That's in the future. So there's a issue at hand. Okay. And how these viral politics will also play out is an issue at hand, because that's again China's and US equation.
Yep.
Interesting. I think we've covered up quite a bit. Firstly, as General Shankar said in the beginning, I hope that India bounces back from this COVID situation really fast. To sum it up, I'd like to say one thing is we can keep hoping for China to fall a bit, but there are three things that we need to work on, and that has been brought out by both the generals in this discussion. One is the diplomacy in and around India as well as around the world. Our economy, which is obviously needs a lot of work after the COVID-19. And the third, as brought out by General Dua, is the military. India's neighborhood can become a quagmire for China, can or cannot. There has to be a lot of effort from India. But I think rather than hoping for the worst for China, we should hope for the best for us. USA has been brought out, is going to become a big playing factor between relations of this part of the world, with its influence pretty much in every third country around this place. So let's wait and watch some very, very interesting factors that both the generals have brought out that are going to affect the Sino-Indian relations. I'd like to thank both of you for joining me today for this very interesting discussion. Something that a lot of people are not thinking about. Everybody's talking about how to negate the Chinese, but we are now here thinking about what are the factors that will influence our deals with China. That is something very, very important. Thank you so much, sir, and I hope to look forward for another session, another day on another topic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adi.
Stay well.
Thank you for inviting us, and it was a pleasure, General Shankar, sir, as always, to interact with you and with you, Adi, especially in this important topic. Stay safe, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.